The Still Loading podcast is brought to you by the wonderful people on Patreon. Amazing people like Charles M., Eric H., Kevin from the Bit by Bit Foundation, Mr. Biscuits, Stephen B., and Gilmer have been wonderful enough to support the show over there. So if you would also like to get your name read at the beginning of an episode, along with a bunch of other bonus goodies, go over to patreon.com/stillloadingpod and check out everything it has to offer. On this episode of Still Loading...
As for you, back in the evil jar!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of the Still Loading podcast. I'm your host, Josh Koval, and today's episode is a look at the second episode of the Legend of Zelda cartoon. And joining me, of course, for all of these video game cartoon shenanigans is my good friend Dexter Morrill, the co-host with the mo-host. Dex, how are you doing today?
Oh boy, smooching time.
I was mortified when I saw that. I was like, smooching time.
As soon as I saw it, I was like, I cannot wait to record.
I'm going to try that move on my wife and see what happens. And then promptly I will be divorced. It was good while it lasted, y'all.
See, what you have to do is you have to buy her a personalized watch that just always says it's smooching time.
Well, an Apple Watch that I just set up an alarm.
Yeah, or a watch for yourself, and if she ever asks you what time it is, be like, it's smooching time.
I just draw a watch on like permanent marker on my wrist. Can you check what time it is? Smooching time. And then watch it backfires on me, you know, like I'm somewhere else and it's like with my best friend. Hey, what time is it?
I hate to tell you,
no.
it's smooching time.
It's smooching time. Come here, Justin. Oh my god.
Our poor listeners have no idea what we're talking about yet.
Well,
unless
they know Justin. He was the original co-host.
Oh no, I meant like smooching time in general.
Oh, with the show. We'll talk about it. We'll get to that. But yeah, Dex, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing awesome. I'm always excited to get together and talk about some cartoons.
It is always a good time. You know, you and I, we usually chat a little bit beforehand, and I'm always talking about something that's stressing me out. But getting to talk about a goofy cartoon for like, we'll see how long this lasts. The Zelda cartoons are shorter, so it's probably going to be another mini episode, but we'll see. We'll see. This episode does have some stuff to discuss, but it's always a joy. It's always a pleasure being able to sit down and chat about this. So I'm excited for this one, man. This one is, oh man, it's better than the last one, I think, but
I think
not
so.
by much.
I think just by the fact that I don't think we get an "Excuse Me, Princess" in this episode.
You're right. Okay, you know what? It's worse now. We don't get the classic line. We need an "Excuse me, Princess," but
we got
are
smooching time instead.
We started with smooching time. Oh my god. Well, we are talking about episode 2. It is called Cold Spells. It was written by a dude named Phil Harnage. It was released on September 15th, 1989. Phil Harnage's other credits are Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids, He-Man and Masters of the Universe. Like all the 80s and 90s cartoons that you can think of, he worked on. Super Mario Super Show, Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, Double Dragon, G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, the 91 through 92 work, Captain Planet and the Planeteers. He also did Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd Century. That was 1999 through 2001. His last credit on Wikipedia, mind you, so I don't have like anything more recent. I don't have his IMDb up. Is Care Bears Unlock the Magic?
Is that the more
And he
recent
did a
series?
film. Hold on. This just because I'm curious about this. He did a film. Did he write it? I'm trying to see here. Hold on. Yeah, he was a writer on a movie called Bonsai Runner, and it's a 1987 American action film starring Dean Stockwell, John Shepard, Charles Dirkop, a bunch of others I don't know. But the plot's just I'm hoping this is going to be funny just because it's like Bonsai Runner. Like, what kind of a name is that? The plot just says it's a group of wealthy motorists drive exotic cars at extreme speeds late at night on public highways. These drivers are referred to as bonsai runners. The majority of the runners participate for the excitement of the driving, but one runner is a cruel, ruthless drug dealer. During one of these contests, a policeman is killed with no witnesses. It's up to the cop's brother to see justice is done. He accomplishes this by assuming a false identity and joining the race. To join the group of runners, the police officer goes undercover and obtains a 1972 De Tomaso Pantera. With this car, he competes in an all-out fight to finish with the evil drug dealer. I'm kind of interested in this.
Yes, this sounds like every 80s movie. Also, the title sounds like a phone game, like a mobile phone game.
I'm gonna see if it's you can watch it anywhere. You might be able to like, in all honesty, a lot of times they have the full movie on YouTube. I literally see it right now, an hour 26 minutes. They have the full movie on YouTube.
And it's under 90 minutes. Beautiful. This movie's getting better by the second.
Yeah, let's do it next episode. But no, that was a random tangent to go down. But yeah, so that's the episode we're talking about. Episode 2, back to Zelda. Episode 2, Cold Spells, written by Phil Harnage, came out on September 15th, 89. Um, the episode opens with something I don't know if you noticed this. I would normally not call something like this out, but if you notice, it's around I'm on the Wild Brain Superheroes channel that I'm
Yes.
watching this one on. And if you notice if you click play at 54 seconds in, the Cold Spells title is fading, and then all of a sudden tree branches fade in at 55 seconds. I don't know
Hmm.
why. Like, is it supposed to symbolize? Because the episode begins with Zelda asking everyone to help with spring cleaning. So I'm guessing that the reason she's asking that is that it's spring and maybe the bird on a tree branch fading into the foreground is to symbolize that. I just thought it was super odd. Like, it didn't make me laugh. I was just kind of like, okay, why?
Yeah, that is weird. I think it's just probably a strange transition that I don't know. Maybe they were trying to make it feel like the camera was pulling into frame with like a tree branch, but I don't know. That is strange. I didn't really pick up on that before.
It like didn't ruin anything for me, of course. It was just kind of like, all right, that's odd. But Zelda asked Link to help her clean the castle, spring cleaning in the castle. And I find it odd that Zelda is a princess who doesn't have any like wait staff or anyone or any any servants, I should say, maids or otherwise, to clean the castle for her. It's Link, the hero of time, and his fairy sprite, which his fairy sprite can literally do everything with magic. It like she literally I mean, that's a major plot point a little bit later in the episode, but she can literally do everything with magic. So why not just have Sprite cast her magic? Like, there's no reason. Like, it's not like she gets tired of it, like, there's no reason to have anyone clean. And Sprite whines the whole episode. It's like, oh, Zelda's making me clean, even though all she literally has to do is just twinkle her fingers.
Yeah. I was going to bring that up later. She carries a rug outside to dust it with magic, and I was like, can't you just like throw it out a window and then like dust it and have it come back in? Like, I don't know.
Can't
There
you just
was
magic the dust away?
something, yeah. Like I was very confused as to why she was lugging a rug all the way to the bottom of the castle to dust it right on the doorstep. Like, she didn't even
Yeah.
really take it very far.
No, and then she brings it back inside, and that is a little bit further into the episode, but Link, he complains about Zelda asking him to do spring cleaning, excuse me, and whatnot, and he goes, I'm gonna march right up to Zelda's face and say, "I'm sick," and he starts throwing on like a nasally voice and fake sneezing, even though no one is in the room. Uh, and then Sprite does come in and notices that Link is not feeling well. And she's kind of like, she's always on Link's side. She doesn't care for Zelda much because she has a crush on Link. If I remember correctly, that is like canon, right?
Yes, it's very much like Tinkerbell with Julia Roberts in Hook with Robin Williams. Like, same thing.
At least in the reason I wanted to double check it because it doesn't really show all that much in this episode, that jealousy between Zelda that Sprite has for Zelda type of thing. But so I just wanted to double check. But yeah, so she's like kind of like, oh, Zelda making you do stuff even when you're sick, blah blah blah. Now Zelda, see, this is what's weird. She complains about Link's room because let's face it, Link's room is a pigsty. It's pretty gross. But instead of having Link clean his room, she has him clean the downstairs of the castle.
Yeah. Yes. And did you notice that, like, even the Triforce is calling Zelda out for, like, hey, maybe don't worry about cleaning the castle. Maybe worry about protecting Hyrule instead.
That was such a weird bit of dialogue too. Like
Yeah.
I didn't understand that point at all. But while Link is doing that though, Zelda opens up the window to get some fresh air in there, and a a giant eagle. What does she call it? Do you
I,
remember?
I think she calls it an Albie.
An Albie. And Albie flies in and attacks her. And one of the most uncomfortable scenes. I understand Albie is a bad guy. It's a monster. It's a henchman of Ganon. But the way she dispatches of him, like, oh
I
my god,
laughed
dude!
out loud when she
I've
opened the window and the Albie's like, "Bark." I was like,
just
this is the most hilarious jump scare. That's what I put in my notes. Like, I
well,
laughed out loud. Just the sound effect and the eagle being just like zooming. Like, what was the Albie gonna do if she hadn't opened the window? Because he was like mid swoop. Like, was he just gonna
go
crash
beak
into
first
it?
right into the window,
Yeah.
right into
And
like the
then
door.
he gets a jump scare himself by being suffocated by Link's laundry.
It is so violent, Dexter. I was so blown away by the fact that, she wards him off with like a pitcher of water and then takes the back of the eagle's head and shoves it into Link's dirty pile of laundry. And you see its wings flailing like it's desperately trying to breathe. And she's just like holding it in there.
Yeah. That's this was the point where I had messaged you when I was watching it. Like, we're 3 minutes in and I'm already laughing out loud. Like, this Albie attack had me rolling
One
from
of the
start to
most
finish.
bonkers scenes I think I've seen in almost, like, we've watched a lot of video game cartoons at this point, Dex. We've seen the entirety of Captain N. We're 2 episodes into Mario. We're now 2 episodes into Zelda. That's the most violent thing I think I've seen. I mean, I just
Being smothered by dirty laundry.
what a way to go too. Like, and I like how obviously she doesn't kill him, doesn't completely smother him because it's a children's cartoon, but she lets him up and he's like, oh my god, like he's all dazed from the bad smell, which also could just be the lack of oxygen because she was fucking suffocating him for like 3 minutes.
Yes. She's
Oh,
putting the Albie out of his misery. But yeah, he gets away. She flops on her bed.
and here's smoochy time.
It's so awkward. Yeah, because she flops on the bed out of exhaustion, and just for Link to come in and see her laying on the bed, and then he goes, "Oh boy, it's smooching time."
That is like, we're keeping a list of stuff for Mario of like, here's Ganon's insults. Here's what Mario's craving, that kind of stuff. We should keep a list of things that Link says that are pervy or creepy. And we're going to get to it in a little bit. But things that Ganon does, things Ganon mimes when he's trying to tell his subordinates, like his minions, like, don't do it that way, do it this way, type of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And he, like, in the last episode, he was miming doing that punching. He's like, no, don't give him one of these and one of
Yeah.
those. And
All
he's
right,
like
and all left.
miming boxing back
Yeah.
to it. It was
Yeah.
funny. Shout out to friend of the show, Jala Chan. She wanted to be on one of these episodes to discuss that very moment. And I'm like, I think we already did it. And she's like, no. So she missed the one. She wanted that scene specifically, and if I had known, I would have invited her on for the inaugural episode.
Yeah. We'll have to have her on one of these soon.
Exactly. But yeah, so Link says smoochy time, and Zelda, promptly calls him out for his bullshit where she's giving him shit, like, why aren't you cleaning? And Sprite goes, well, he's sick. And she goes, I don't think he didn't seem that sick just a second ago. I'm like, yeah, he tried to fucking
When
jump you.
when he sprinted for the bed.
Smoochy time.
Because it's one thing to make the comment like, "Oh, hey," but to sprint like and dive headfirst.
He's awful. Like, I don't understand how you can make a character who is a silent protagonist. Now, granted, like Mario was also a silent protagonist at the same time, and make Mario at least likable, and this guy just unbearable.
No, it's so true.
He's just absolutely awful.
Yeah, he's got Sprite fooled though. If he thinks he's sick.
Yes, well, Sprite just all she gives a shit about is Link. Doesn't care about anything else. But yeah, so the eagle is still outside the door after hearing all this, that they're doing spring cleaning, excuse me, and he relays us back to Ganon. And I'm sorry, I think King Koopa has better plots than plots, evil machinations to
Yeah,
get
they
what he
make more
wants.
sense so far. Yeah.
Ganon's whole thing, like at least the first one, okay, it's an archery contest, it's Robin Hood, okay, I understand, I get all that, or it was a magic contest, excuse me. Um, I get all that. It's fine. It's not great, but it's at least better than what this is. Which his grand fucking plan is like, oh, they're spring cleaning. I'll make sure to make a really big mess with my magic to distract them so I can steal the Triforce. He doesn't send anyone in. He rides a giant fucking beetle literally up the side of the castle walls at a point. And then he just goes in and takes it. Once again, nobody guards the Triforce, this sacred relic that they're trying to desperately keep Ganon away from, or keep Ganon from. Real quick, I love though when the eagle relays this to Ganon, and he's like, "All right, perfect. I'm going to now, set my whole plan in motion." And what did I write down? I wrote down his line right here. Do you know
Back
what I'm
to the
talking about?
evil jar.
As for you, back to the evil jar.
There aren't enough evil jars out there. I also need a Zelda game with an evil jar, or I need a lava lamp. So if there's anybody out there that's on Etsy that can make me a 3D printed evil jar lava lamp, I would buy it.
That would be. I love that he just calls it the evil jar. I can't get over that. It's so good. As for you, back to the evil jar.
Yeah.
It's such a good line, man. It is so fucking funny. I love that line. Um,
And I was gonna say, riding the beetle with the little saddle, like that's an upgrade from his weird throne carried by Stalfos before. Like I like the beetle. They're starting to convince, like, I need a toy line based on this series. I need the
oh,
beetle to put my little Ganon action figure on. I need an evil jar to store all of my villain action figures.
that would be kind of dope too. I would love that. In all honesty, the versions of the character of like Zelda stuff in this show is really fun. Also, once again, shout out to the music of this show, man. It is so fucking good.
Yeah, it really is. There's a point where where they're adventuring in the woods and they do the classic overworld theme, and it's so good. Something we didn't call out last episode that they did do again this episode, and I'm sure we'll get to it, is they have a great explanation for how Link can carry so many items and weapons, how they like
Hmm.
shrink down.
Yeah, he like gives Zelda like once Ganon's plot goes awry, or once Blanon, oh my god, once Ganon's plot unfolds. He shows up at the castle. Um, we'll explain the castle stuff in just a moment. But once his plot starts to unfold, Link gives Zelda a boomerang and a bow and arrow, and they're just tiny little things that are in her hands. It's adorable.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I can't remember what he pulled out. Maybe it was a bow and arrow last episode as well, or a boomerang or something like that. But he shrunk something down to put it back in his pocket.
Well, while this is all happening, though, like Ganon is riding a beetle over to the castle. Sprite is using the magic to like bring stuff outside the castle, which is what you were talking about before, Dex. How she carries it out herself, only to then use magic to dust, so it can pick itself up and dust itself off. Uh, why wouldn't you just use magic to bring it out? I don't know, but it is what it is. She sees an old lady vending some oranges, and she's like, "Oranges, it'll cure whatever ails you." And just Sprite's like, "Oh, that's perfect for Link." And Ganon sees this, he's spying on them, and instead of like cursing the old lady or this and that, he curses the orange itself. And that's what no, sorry, he curses Sprite.
Yeah,
And
and I wrote that down. Was he trying to curse Sprite or was he trying to curse the orange?
I
I was
think he was
unclear.
I think he was trying to curse Sprite because he saw her using magic, and he's like, "Well, I can make her magic go haywire." Even though none of that's really explained, it's just kind of inferred and implied and everything, you know?
Yeah, because when I saw this too, I was like, oh, I get it. He's going to curse an orange instead of the cliche apple, and then Link is going to eat it. And then when he
Yeah, that's what
zapped
I thought
Sprite, I
too.
was like, oh, he zapped Sprite by accident. And then yeah, like her magic is too powerful. I was like, what is this plot? I'm going to zap Sprite so that her magic is too powerful. Ha ha ha.
Well,
I
it's
did
almost like she
not get
just
that.
can't control it at that point. Um, and this scene though, like when Sprite does try to use her magic to continue with the cleaning at this point, this is the distraction Ganon was hoping for. It causes everything to go nuts. Like all like the mops start moving on their own when they were supposed to, but not in the way that they're doing here, where they're like putting water all over the bed. They're filling like the buckets grow wings, and they're literally just taking water from outside and just dumping it inside Zelda's room and filling it up with water. It does bring me to something. At first, I wrote down as a note, and I was just like, I was kind of annoyed by like she doesn't have any, like servants, right? But she's making Link and Sprite do all the cleaning and she's doing none of it. And I'm like, I get she's a princess, but it still irked me. But in the scene where everything's going haywire and they go to check on Sprite, it's where you see her actually dusting like a big rug out on like a line or something. I'm like, okay, so she is actually doing work.
Yeah, they were dividing and conquering before. I think they were each cleaning like different rooms. But
Yeah.
yeah, Sprite totally pulled Sorcerer's Apprentice. Like that was definitely. I felt
Hmm.
like it was Fantasia reference with like just like all the brooms pouring the water and stuff.
Well, I love the visual of it because like it cuts away for a second. You hear Sprite, like go and Link and Zelda go like rush after her to rescue her, and when it cuts back, the entire room is just filled with water. I'm like, wow, those buckets work fast. This was like a solid like maybe 3 minutes of two buckets just going back and forth, putting water everywhere.
Yeah.
I, I was impressed. I was impressed. That was a fast fill.
Yes, and I was like, oh, hopefully they don't make a royal flush joke, and then they made a royal flush joke afterward.
Well, and actually, real quick, because I skipped past it a little bit too quickly. I think it's what we're going to use for the thumbnail, Dexter. If I based off what you sent me yesterday.
Yes.
But when all the stuff goes haywire, can you explain to the listeners here what exactly happens to Sprite?
Okay, so all of the cleaning equipment is becoming sentient, including a
As you do.
cleaning rag. Yeah. So like the brooms and the buckets are doing their thing, and a rag comes out of one of the flying buckets and just full on karate kicks Sprite like in the face. Like takes on an anthropomorphic shape. And the animation is actually kind of impressive how it looks like a little tiny person kicking Sprite. So I had to stop. I had to screenshot it and send it to Josh. Like, I don't know if we're gonna find a better thumbnail than this.
That I loved that moment so much. It made me laugh so hard. It I was like, what is it? It literally, even the animation they chose for it, it literally kind of seemed like the rag was going why I oughta, and like was like doing a kick with a phantom foot. I don't know. It's so hard to explain. The rag turns into a silhouette, not a silhouette, but like a shape of a human. It's so
Yeah,
goofy
it's
and
interesting.
silly.
If anyone's ever taken like uh basic animation courses or has looked into learning how to animate, one of the big things that they do for practice is, at least nowadays, is animating like a sack of flour kind of thing. How
Hmm.
can you make a sack of flour do different things? And this is very much like that. It's very much like the carpet from Aladdin, from Disney's Aladdin. Like
Hmm.
it's a way to help teach animators how to express things with body language, even with things that are like very limited in their, you know, just a square shaped rag or a vaguely square shaped sack of flour kind of thing.
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
they they pull it off because like one of the corners twists into like this kind of tucked arm pose. Like the two bottom corners are like the legs, where one kind of jumps up to do the kick. It's really cool. And it's a fun exercise if there's anyone out there that does want to get into animating, figuring out how to make those poses with things that are not human shaped and making them kind of human shaped.
That's really cool. I love seeing when animators can do that because it's surprisingly like I shouldn't say it's difficult. Like I know what the hell I'm talking about, but like if you think about it logistically, that is hard to like come up with the idea to take something not real, something that is inanimate object and make it anthropomorphic in some way, shape, or form and give it personality through animation. It's really cool that they do that. But Dexter, I want to throw it over to you for this next little bit of the story. After Sprite and all the chaos that ensues with the mishappenings of trying to spring clean, what goes on? Like what's the next part of the episode?
Yeah, so Link and Zelda, they hear the screams coming from Sprite as she's being attacked. And so they rush to go help her, and that's when the room, they open the door and they get flushed completely out from the water. Link makes a talk about a royal flush kind of joke, and that's when Link is like, "All right, let's get armed up. Something's going on here." And he holds out his hand, and there's these cute little bows and arrows and boomerangs. And he gives one of each to himself and Zelda, and they're prepared to go help out. Meanwhile, um, Ganon's riding his beetle guy up the side of the tower to the Triforce, where once again, not guarded. I'm not sure why they keep putting it in the same place if Ganon knows where it is. Um, but yeah, he pretty easily is able to get away with the Triforce of Wisdom and skedaddle, and makes it much farther this time around. Um, Before he got bombed as he was entering the underground layer, but he gets away this time. But they do a great action scene after this. Zelda and Link going to help Sprite. Zelda actually has some great action scenes here as well, whipping out the bow and arrow and the boomerang and taking out baddies and stuff like that, or the baddies, the enchanted buckets and dusters and
Hmm.
things like that.
I do love that Zelda saves Link here as well. Link gets all wrapped up and then he's pummeled by a bunch of brooms.
Yeah.
Like, this is what you get, you piece of shit.
Yeah, exactly.
I
And
I love that.
so the thing that I found interesting after this was, Sprite tells them what happened. Like, I went out to clean the rug and I came back and my magic went crazy. And Zelda and Link are like, let's go get Ganon. And I was like, wait, she never said anything about Ganon. Like,
Like, how do you
obviously,
know?
yeah,
Yeah,
obviously he's the reason that anything bad happens. But like, they said it
obvious.
in a way of like, of course, this must be Ganon. Like,
It's like, really? Is it really Ganon? Do you really know? But
yeah,
apparently they do.
yeah.
Apparently it's
It reminded me of the old 1966 Batman series when they would solve ridiculous riddles from the Riddler. Like, what's yellow and rights? A ballpoint banana. Yes. Like, what? How did you get that?
that reminds me of when like that ballpoint banana thing and like what's yellow, what did you say, what's yellow and can write?
Yeah.
I remember Courtney, she used to work in a childcare center, and period, like once in a while she would, they have that in office phone that was like only local to the office, like you couldn't call out, it was just to dial the other classrooms type of thing.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And so she called up the one classroom for something important, but then one time she calls them up and goes, "Hi, what's green and has wheels?" And the person goes, "What?" Like just totally, confused and bewildered. Like, where is this coming from? What are you talking about? And before they can answer, she goes, "Grass. I lied about the wheels." Click, and hangs up.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but that ever since she told me that, that has just made me laugh so hard because it's not a joke. It's like you set it up to be a joke and then just to be like, just kidding, fuck you, nothing to you.
Yeah. That's absolutely, it's the same logic going on here. I went outside to clean the rug. It's Ganon. Like, what?
Like, oh, it makes me laugh so hard. Yeah, I went outside to clean the rug. It was Ganon all along. Get
I knew
him.
it. And, of course, Zelda blames Link, like, I can't believe you let him steal the Triforce. And Link is like, but I'm sick. And then they move on. I was like, but you've been lying about that. You can't use that excuse.
And also, technically, even if he wasn't sick, he wasn't in his room at the time because he came. Oh, actually, no, he should have been in his room. Now that I think about it, either way, yeah, he's. I don't know. I can't stand the people pretending to be sick type of thing. It's just a trope I've never enjoyed in things. I don't know. Just maybe because I'm too much of a goody goody. I'm like, oh, don't you lie to your parents like that. Maybe also now because I'm a dad. Like I watch this with my daughter, and I was like, "Oh, I was like, "Oh, Link, don't lie." I was so mad. I'm like, "You're setting a bad example for my kid here. Don't do that."
I'm pretty sure, like, because I feel like that doesn't really push the plot along at all either, other than it helps fulfill the joke of the title of the episode, Cold Spells. Like, but I don't know. It's strange.
But after they, inexplicably, excuse me, are able to determine it's Ganon, they chase after him, and Ganon does actually get away. He rides his beetle into a hidden portal, that a hidden like cave that springs up from underneath a tree. I gotta say, one thing I love about this show is the portals to Ganon's area are always imaginative and really interesting. Like they did it in the last episode and they did it in this one. Like the tree, the idea of just like this tunnel popping out a tree with all the roots still wrapped around like this stone thing just is really cool to me. I really, really like that.
Yeah, and it's still like, if something like that were to be in, say, the Zelda movie that's coming out, or in a modern Zelda cartoon, it would still fit. I mean, like, that's still something that's not strange in a Zelda game or, piece of media.
No, it looks really cool. And Link then says though that he has a different way into Ganon's underworld, and so he like basically knocks on a tree and a door opens. I think I think he knocks on it anyway, but
Yes.
a door opens. They go inside. Both him and Zelda are attacked by roots. They save each other, and they fall through a trap door, which then lands them in this glass, this impenetrable glass, like a chalice almost, a giant chalice.
Yes, like a goblet. Yeah, it's
And that's when Ganon is. That's just when they get down there is when Ganon is showing off. Like, oh, look at my fancy true tri piece of the Triforce. Even though it's tri meaning three, there's only two of them. I know that's how it was in the game back then, but it still irks me
yeah,
that there's
it's
like
still
only
strange.
two pieces of a Triforce. Like, what the fuck? Come on. Um, so Link and Zelda are trapped in the goblet chalice thing, and Ganon's like, "All right, instead of dispatching you directly, I'm going to sick my what is it? It's one of those giant crab
Goma.
things,
Yeah, it's
Goma.
Goma. It's the one-eyed creature that's in like all the Zelda games. Yeah, he even
Yes,
calls it out too, because when it came out, I was like, "Oh, it's Goma!" Like, and he's like, "Get them, Goma! Get in from the top!"
then this is the thing that I was referencing before, how like he mimes something. He's trying to tell Goma how to get him, and for some reason Goma's like, I'm just going to put my crab claws directly towards the glass, and he's like, no, Goma, go in from the top, and he's mimicking the crab claw like going over. It was just so fucking silly and funny. uh and I love how they defeat Goma in the way that they don't actually. Link dodges a fireball from Ganon, and Ganon's fireball kills Goma. And then Sprite shows up because she feels bad about the whole magic thing and closes her eyes and then shoots at the glass thing that Zelda's still in. And it's super dangerous. I wouldn't have recommended it because she could have hit Zelda, but it breaks the glass, and then Zelda whips out her bow, shoots Ganon, and he right as he's about to fade into oblivion, he launches a fireball and like into one corner of his lair and just completely destroys it. Like it starts coming down, and this is where I was confused, where I was like, why didn't Zelda grab the other Triforce? You can see her actively trying to do that, but because uh the whole place is coming down, Link's like, it's not worth it, we got ours, let's just run away. And this leads me to a couple questions, Dexter. If Ganon can shoot fire out of his fingers and Link and Zelda are trapped in a glass, why didn't he just fucking put his fingers in the glass and shoot fire?
Uh, that is a great question. We'll have to ask all of the old James Bond villains the same thing.
Usually it's like I need to know what they find out. Like what I need to find out what they already know. But no one fucking like he doesn't fucking care what Zelda and Link
Yeah, it's
know.
not like he has to torture information out of them or anything.
It is just bonkers.
Man, it
Absolutely
really does end pretty
bonkers.
abruptly after that.
Oh yeah, because that's pretty much it. It ends, and that's all she wrote for the
Yeah,
episode.
the ending joke is a little lame. Like Zelda's like, okay, now we're all gonna work together to clean, and we're starting with my room. And I was like, what? Like,
Why?
isn't it Link's room that's covered with smelly laundry that you wanted to get rid of?
Well, her room was also flooded. Remember?
Oh, okay. Maybe that makes a little more sense.
Yeah, her room was also flooded. The other thing that it got me thinking about, besides the fact that Ganon couldn't just finish the job, does Ganon die at the end of every one of these episodes? Does he
He
go
goes
back into the evil
back
jar?
to the evil jar. He might. He might. I mean, they could. That could just be his thing. That was going to be because I imagine that's where we're kind of going with the conversation. That my overall, opinion. This was the most sitcom-y episode. It
Back
felt
to the
very
I can't.
sitcom.
So many quotable lines. Back to the evil jar. Smoochy time or smooching time.
Yeah. Um,
Honestly, this was a lot better than the first episode. Like I had a lot more fun watching this one. Uh I just was genuinely surprised that Ganon died again. I'm like, okay, so how does like where does this motherfucker keep coming back from? And he should theoretically be completely dead because he crushed everything in his palace, including the evil jar. But you know he's
Nothing
going to
can
be back next
destroy the
episode.
evil jar.
It's you can't destroy the evil jar. Well, it's just it's bonkers. I'm enjoying I enjoyed this episode a lot more. Let's put this into our final thoughts, though, Dex. Like, yeah, what are your final thoughts on this episode compared to the first one? What are your like? Where does it rank? Do you enjoy it more? Did you enjoy it less?
I think that the first episode has more fun things to look at, if that makes sense. Like I think there's more Zelda style action, like the
Hmm.
fight with the moblins and with the dragon, the Stalfos. There's a lot more iconic stuff in the first episode and the Excuse Me Princess. But this one had like I don't know. Like I said, I was already laughing out loud 3 minutes into the episode. Like this was had some more absurdity that was a little more entertaining from that aspect. Like if I could combine the good parts of both this episode and the first one, we might have an ultimate show.
I'd be very curious to see what that is. Like, how pervy is Link gonna get? How will Ganon die in this one? Like, I'm honestly the after the first episode, I was like, oh man, I'm really not looking forward to doing the rest of these Zeldas. After this one, I enjoyed it a lot more. It was a lot more silly and campy and just like over the top, and I think I enjoyed that a lot. I enjoyed those aspects of it a lot more than I did the first one. And just like the quotable lines, like I swear I'm gonna go down, like, the moment we're done recording this, I'm gonna go down and see my wife and be like, smoochy time, and then get divorced. um but yeah, well, I don't know, I don't really have much more to add for this one, Dex, unless you have any final thoughts. Thank you for joining me, man. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, this was great. Absolutely, as always. But yeah, I don't think I've got anything else. I think we kind of covered it all. It was pretty straightforward. It was a very sitcom-y style episode with hijinks and probably one of the few times we won't have an excuse me princess.
I mean, Uh, did I miss? Yeah, I missed the "Excuse Me, Princess." I did. I'll be honest. It's dumb. It's stupid, but I missed the "Excuse Me, Princess." It's fun to say. It's a fun line to say. But
It is.
well, Dexter, let's wrap up this episode then. Where can the good people find you online, and what would you like to promote?
You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky. You'll just search my name, DexterMorrill. I'm on there sharing artwork, sharing stuff from my students, sharing video game history stuff. Um, no, if you wanna support, me, support the show. Go grab one of those still loading T-shirts or go check out T Public and grab some of that stuff. That's what I'll promote right now until I've got a more substantial project done. But otherwise, that's it.
All right. As for myself, of course, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Still Loading Pod on all of them. Also, Twitch, Blue Sky Threads at Still Loading Pod, at Still Loading Podcast on YouTube. Please go subscribe over there. It's just the thumbnails of the show, but still, like the full audio and thumbnails, but still, subscribers are nice. If you want to support the show, please consider giving it a 5-star rating or review on whichever podcasting app you use. It helps more people find the show. It pleases the algorithm gods, and it makes me feel nice and dandy and warm and fuzzy and all that good stuff. Nice and dandy. That's a new one that I haven't used yet. Uh, if you want to support the show monetarily, there is a Patreon, patreon.com/stillloadingpod. And for your hard earned money, there's lots of extra goodies. There's early access to episodes, patron voting rights, and better audio quality at the $1 level. There are patron shout outs, like you heard at the beginning of this episode, at the $3 level, plus everything prior. There are bonus episodes at the $4 level, plus all the other stuff prior. And of course, at the $5 level, there is everything that I've already mentioned, plus access to my movie movie podcast, which at the time is still bonding. Who knows what it's going to be for anyone who listens to this in the future, but at the moment, I'm getting close to the end of the James Bond franchise. Still Bonding is a podcast with me and a bunch of friends who bond over 007. The month this episode comes out, I want to say Quantum of Solace will be the movie that we're covering this month. So we're getting close. We're getting close to the end of the franchise, and from there, I think it's going to be Fast and Furious. I've been teasing you for the last few episodes, but yeah, Fast and Furious will be after that. So patreon.com/stillloadingpod. But that's it. That's all the time I got for you. Thank you all for listening. Dexter, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And with all that said, listeners, back to the evil jar.